Nothing resolved yet in a holding pattern with Brandon Aiyuk, his contract negotiation, no trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers or anybody else. We've got some reports on what exactly is going on there and some comments from Kyle Shanahan as the 49ers get ready for their preseason opener. All that coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Croc. We'll get into some reports about what's going on with the San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk and a potential trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to be honest, I think we nailed it. If you listen to yesterday's podcast, I think we're going to rehash what we already said, because now there's reports coming out about what we had talked about yesterday on the show. And so the information I had is looking pretty correct on that. I want to start, though, with Kyle Shanahan. He was just on KNBR Thursday evening, speaking about that situation, speaking about, getting ready for the preseason game and the coaching that he has to do. And that was sort of one of the things is he's like, I try to keep out of it because I got to coach a football team. And I wonder how much extra time Kyle has to put in with John Lynch is like, oh, hey, Kyle, can you go watch tape on Calvin Austin? Can you go watch tape on James Daniels? Can you go watch, if there's all these trade offers, what players they're going to get, if he's got to watch tape on, go make sure Kendrick Bourne's still that guy. Let's go watch his 23 tape, stuff like that, because you're not just going to go make a trade willy-nilly after not know what the pieces are that you're getting back too. So I didn't really think about that aspect of things because, John Lynch has all day to figure out what players could come back. Kyle Shanahan's trying to put together training camp practices and coach a team. And he needs to be involved with any sort of players coming back into trade.
I think that's the difficult part of being the head coach that has so much roster control. I remember on draft day, when I was with the New York Jets, Rex Ryan came into the room. It was me, Antonio Cromartie. We were just kind of sitting there watching some film. And Rex says, hey, who do you guys think they're going to draft tonight? I'm looking at Rex like, ain't you supposed to know who they're going to draft? But he's so far removed from the personnel aspect of things. And he just coaches. And there's a lot of coaches around the league who just coach and aren't as invested in every move. And they get the ingredients that the GM or the owner prepares for them, and then they do with it whatever it needs to happen. When you're a guy like Kyle Shanahan and you have so much roster control, I think if I remember correctly, John Lynch is responsible for the roster, and then Kyle is responsible for 53, the final 53, and then the guys are going to be active. It's along those lines, right?
So, I think that's kind of Kyle Shanahan has control contractually of the roster, but the way they try to divvy it up is basically Kyle's in-season guy, John is off-season guy, basically. Yeah, you give me the 90, but Kyle clearly has his guys in charge of the draft, or at least has a big say in the draft as far as which guys of his that he wants that the Niners have to draft, and make sure John goes and gets those guys. And then I think the scouting staff takes care of the rest. And I know the rest of the coaching staff has a big say in who the 49ers draft too. So really it's just everybody working together. And I think Kyle and John have done a really phenomenal job. Maybe that's the best thing they've done, is be able to work together and figure this thing out. And there's been some really weird misses and odd stuff. And the Aiyuk thing is one of those right now. But there's been a lot of amazing stuff that they've done, and they've put together one of the best rosters, if not the best roster in the NFL, with or without Brandon Aiyuk.
We have Todd Bowden live right now in the chat, and he says, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it looks like we are past the point of return. I think Aiyuk is traded. I think we all assume that he's traded, but do you think we are past the point of return? Do you think that there's nothing right now that can salvage it? Because for me, if the deal was to get done tomorrow, people would be like, gosh, that was a headache. but they would welcome him back with open arms. I'd assume. But what's your take on that?
Well, according to Kyle Shanahan on KNBR today, he said he was asked if he remains hopeful that a deal could be worked out. And he said, in a perfect world, you'd love all that to happen. But there's a lot of sides to it. There's us, what we want. It's what he wants. There's a whole contract and stuff to that. It's the tough business part of this league. And some years it can be harder than others. This is a very difficult one, but it's something you're always holding out hope for. So you think that for what it is, that's Kyle Shanahan. Does he sound legitimately hopeful, or is that him saying, in a perfect world, we'd love it to happen, but it's not going to happen this time?
I think the most telling quote out of everything that Kyle Shanahan said, and he was live on KNBR, but he had this to say about the situation. You're always frustrated when the guy is not in. I came into this situation understanding it could be like this. So we were prepared for that. You are always holding out hope that it could work out. This was something that it wasn't a surprise going into it. So they came into the situation knowing that whatever they were offering, he just did not want, and they did not think that they wanted to. And you correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. You guys can help me with this, kind of break this down. But whatever he wanted, they were like, we're just not going to give into that. So it is what it is. Like, that was kind of how I read that, where from his standpoint, he's probably going to hold out. It's probably going to end up with him being traded. And that's just it. What do you take from that quote from Kyle Shanahan?
Croc in the chat, Patriots are cooking the Panthers 17-0. So clearly they didn't need Brandon Aiyuk added to that powerhouse of an offensive roster. There's preseason football happening right now. Niners going to play here in a couple of days.
Maybe the Patriots are like, you know what? If we play well enough, maybe Aiyuk will win us.
Oh yeah, and it'll be too late. So if they do if Drake May is like CJ Stroud, and their defense actually could be pretty good. It was a good defense last year. You know, Bill Belichick's not there coordinating it, but all of a sudden they're a playoff team and have a star young quarterback. And you could be like, oh man, I could have had the most money and be on this young team with a young star quarterback.
Yeah, that would be a gut punch.
I think it's pretty unlikely that happens, but it is a possibility. I mean, Drake May's a talented dude, so we'll see what happens there with the rebuild in New England. How long that takes. One more quick quote, and just to finish up the Kyle Shanahan quotes from that interview. He said, so I hope it does. He went on about the Aiyuk thing. Says, so I hope it does. Man, that would be awesome to wake up one day and know we have this solved. But I try to come in each day, and unless there's something relevant or something that has to happen that I got to be a part of and really discuss, which doesn't happen very much right now, that I'm trying to keep it in the back of my mind, kind of out of it, and just focus on the players that are here right now. So I don't know. That's there's a little bit of coach speak there. Sorry, you asked me a question, and now I forgot what it was already.
I forgot what the question was. I think it was just along the lines of his the comment that I read.
Yeah,
from Kyle Shanahan. You know, heading into it, not expecting a positive resolution, is that a weird way to kind of go about it? You know, when you have so much control over this a little bit. Did you give your input on how you want this to get done? And when I say you, I'm talking about Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, and his quote in this sounded almost like his quote that started training camp, where he was like, yeah, I expected, a hold in or a hold out or whatever, because we didn't have a contract done. So the question becomes, did his expectation arise because he knew the 49ers weren't offering an offer that he expected him to take? Like, have the 49ers purposely been lowballing Aiyuk in a way that it's like, I know this is not market value, but to do a deal now, this is what we have to do, or else let's play through this season and see how it plays out. And Aiyuk's like, nope, ain't happening. I'm not doing the 5th-year option thing. You got to up your offer. And that's why he's so upset. And that's why he had the meeting, remember? And that would kind of make sense with what Mike Silver reported earlier this week, that they haven't even discussed a contract since May, or the 49ers haven't since May. And it seems hard to believe, but maybe that's just where they're at. They're like, hey, we're going to play hardball on this one, Brandon. So, you're going to hold out, and eventually you're going to come back and play on your 5th-year option. And then now all of a sudden they finally caved and said, okay, well, let's see if we can trade you, because he annoyed Kyle Shanahan enough, according to Mike Silver's report. I don't know. which is insane and short-sighted if that's really what happened.
And he will play. I don't expect him to miss a game. Like, if this just lasts into the regular season or week 1, and week one comes around, like I expect number 11 to be out there on the field. It's just not as ideal when there's this contract negotiation looming over the situation. That you have a disgruntled receiver. That things have gotten a little bit personal, or a lot of bit personal and emotional as well, and have gotten to the point where you're letting him pick where he wants to go and turn this down and turn that down, and then all of a sudden week one he's going to be out there. That seems like it would be kind of an awkward situation, and definitely a start to Brandon Aiyuk's 5th year. And what would that do for him moving forward as far as, his market value heading into 2025? Like that just seems like a very tough situation that I'm pretty sure Aiyuk doesn't want, and he's probably just hoping that everything gets resolved right now.
By the way, the Niners aren't the only team dealing with this. It's not been as publicized, but today an interesting thing happened in Dallas. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, about another first-round 2020 wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, who remains unsigned, had a quote saying, "I don't have any urgency to get it done." And CeeDee Lamb quote tweeted that quote with LOL. So CeeDee Lamb was like, "Oh, you're not in a hurry to get this done, huh? What the hell?" So, and apparently, since then, CeeDee Lamb has scrubbed America's team off of his bio as well. So there we go. It's heating up in Dallas too. So hey, CeeDee Lamb for Brandon Aiyuk. Who says no? All right, more reports on Brandon Aiyuk. What's going on with this negotiation, trade possibilities? And if it's true that the 49ers are looking for a second trade and maybe a wide receiver for another team, which wide receivers make the most sense there? Devante Adams, could he really be a part of something? And what to watch for preseason 49ers Titans. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to level up to peak performance or just maintain your vehicle. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. And you'll always find exactly what you're looking for because eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And I love the Guaranteed Fit. There was a big green check mark. I've told this story. Ran over a traffic cone, knocked the fender flare off my car. Found it. Couldn't have been easier. The rivets were already on the part. Popped it right in using eBay Motors. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. I mean, is that insane? Brandon Aiyuk for CeeDee Lamb? Of all the crazy stuff that's happened with the 49ers that somehow have bananas off seasons every single year. What about, hey, Jerry, look, save a little bit of money. Niners liked CeeDee Lamb just a little bit more than Brandon Aiyuk in the 2020 draft. Save it here. You worried about money? You got to sign Dak? Here. Save a couple mil. Let's do this deal. Brandon Aiyuk catching passes from Trey Lance in 49ers or in Cowboys camp with CeeDee Lamb coming to the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle's number one wide receiver that year.
Man, that would be crazy. And I think the craziest reason why is because I think one of the biggest issues for the 49ers is the roster they have and how many guys they've paid. I mean, if you think about at the time that the guys signed their contract, how many of these players were made the highest paid player at their position? So they paid a ton of guys, and you see Trent Williams, he's at the table again to once again get paid. So that might be the biggest issue, right? If the 49ers didn't have Nick Bosa, if they didn't have a Fred Warner, would they have as much trouble paying an extra few $1 million to Brandon Aiyuk per year to get this deal done? I'd say no. They probably would just be like, all right, let's just do it, you know? So I don't think it would make a whole lot of sense to say, all right, we don't have enough to just do this with Brandon Aiyuk, but we're going to pay CeeDee Lamb more, because if I had to guess, CeeDee Lamb wants Justin Jefferson money or somewhere around there. Like, there have been people out there that say, oh, Brandon Aiyuk wants Justin Jefferson money. He thinks he's just like, no, he doesn't. He wants like $6 million less per year than Justin Jefferson. But CeeDee Lamb, who almost had 1,800 yards this past season, I think he's going to want more. that Jefferson money, and that's probably what a big part of the holdup is. So if you weren't willing to pay Brandon Aiyuk $28 million per year, I'd have a hard time believing that you're willing to pay CeeDee Lamb $34 million per year, which would still have him in $1 million per year under Justin Jefferson.
Right. And yeah, so that's not happening. But I think the correlation you can draw with Lamb and Aiyuk right now is that their teams are like, well, we're not in a hurry to sign you because we're not ready. We're not prepared to pay you what you're asking. Guess what? You're still under contract. So I think that's why both of these situations are actually very similar. It's just been less publicized, and they haven't, the Cowboys haven't, CeeDee Lamb hasn't been as public about his unhappiness, and the Cowboys haven't allowed, and he hasn't asked for a trade, and the Cowboys haven't allowed him to seek a trade. But who knows? Maybe that's something that could happen with the Dallas Cowboys too. So we'll find out. But what wide receivers, Croc, do make sense for the 49ers? Could Devante Adams be part of this?
I don't think he makes it. Well, one, I would love that. I mean, Devante Adams is probably my favorite player in all of football. I just love the way he plays the game. For a guy that's not like this burner, the way he's able to win vertically, the way he's able to win underneath. But a lot of what makes him him. And I remember watching this at times with the Raiders. I'm like, why aren't the Raiders doing things with Devante Adams like the Packers did? Like, they're not moving him around. They're not motioning him. They're not doing all these things that make him like have as much value as he does. And those same things that I was asking for the Raiders to do with him, I've been asking for the 49ers to do for Brandon Aiyuk. And they're choosing not to do those things. Now, are they choosing not to do those things because he's not capable of doing it? Which I'd say I call BS on that, because when they have put him in motion in times, I've seen him do it and win convincingly. So he definitely can, but it seems like they don't want to run their offense that way through a guy. So with the 49ers change some of their philosophy for a guy like Devante Adams, you and I posed this question before for another very talented player, it was Christian McCaffrey. We're like, they don't throw to the running backs. Are they going to change their entire offense? And what they've done, they've thrown it to the running backs like the least amount of times in all of the NFL. Sure enough, the guy was good enough to where they said, we'll definitely change the way we view this offense for him. Would they do the same thing for Devante Adams? I think that'd be a big question.
They still throw it to McCaffrey less than the Panthers did, even though they throw it to their running backs more now because Christian McCaffrey's the dude.
I think that Kyle, and I see in the chat someone talked about Adams with Kyle right here, Ian Sharp. I think Kyle would love Devante Adams and his mindset. He goes out there, everything is win. Everything is focused on winning. Everything is focused on getting better. That's probably why he's had so much struggles with the Raiders. And I think a lot of people, they look at this last year, it was terrible. The year before that, one, he dominated. He was like 1,600 yards receiving. But also when he went there, the Raiders were coming off of a playoff appearance. So it's not like they were just this team that's just like, oh, they're just so terrible. Then they go and get Derek Carr's best friend. But clearly it didn't work out.
So if you guys don't know, some of the listeners might not know what we're talking about with other receivers. And there's a report now from Mike Garafolo who said that potentially the 49ers are looking to a third team to try to make a wide receiver come back in a deal that wouldn't come back in a trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's something that I said I heard yesterday. And I have a very good source on that. And I'm not like Mr. Source guy, Mr. Newsbreaker insider guy, but I think it's pretty clear that my source was correct on this, and that the 49ers, whether they have a deal minus a player worked out, if they can find a wide receiver, or if they're still just trying to figure out what that would look like if they were to find another receiver, then figure out what if maybe they still haven't agreed upon what exactly the trade is coming back. Obviously, nothing has been figured out, so nothing is happening yet, but it sounds like maybe the Niners getting wide receivers is a sticking point in the trades. And if they can't find it from another team and they can't find it from the Steelers, maybe that's a deal breaker for the 49ers because they want a receiver back in this. Croc, we've talked about this, that we don't like that aspect of this trade, if that's indeed the case, because whether it's Pearsall or Robbie Chose Anderson, that is the newest signee for the San Francisco 49ers joining the team, whether it's Chris Connolly, I'd be okay going into the season like that as long as the Aiyuk trade is enough for trading away Aiyuk. Like, the trade has to be legit. You have to get everything you want as far as just the value of trading away Aiyuk, whether it's only picks or it's picks and players, whatever it is, needing a wide receiver to come back now is the difficult part, because I don't think this is a good time to be trading for a wide receiver. Not a lot of the teams are all built. Like Courtland Sutton is probably the number one option, I'd say, of someone who could potentially be available, who has been available in the past, but they just restructured his deal and they've gone into the season with the team they've built. And teams aren't ready to trade away players right now to start the season. They might be mid-season, they might be at the deadline, but they're really not right now. It's not a good time to trade for a wide receiver. So I think it's a flawed approach for the 49ers if they have to get a veteran wide receiver. And if you have to have a stud wide receiver, keep Brandon Aiyuk. That's the receiver.
So that's the big part, right? I think Alfonso here has it right as well. He says, what does that say about our rookies that the 49ers just drafted? And for me, it's like, have you seen nothing that is like, has you optimistic about them just being able to be some kind of contributors, right? Like, not even saying you have to replace Brandon Aiyuk. And again, I think a big part of this is, well, Ricky Pearsall has been hurt a lot. If Ricky Pearsall had just been healthy and just had a normal offseason and, had a few catches here, a couple catches here, and you have some things you could build off of, would they still be demanding getting a receiver in return? I would say maybe not, but I think Kenny here in the chat also has a good point. Selling low on Aiyuk but having to buy high on his replacement, that seems bad. And it seems even worse to me, because I thought his replacements were in-house when all of this went down. When the moment Ricky Pearsall was drafted and then Jacob Cowan was drafted, it felt to me that they put themselves in a position to where if we lose one of these guys, man, we'll be all right.
We're good.
Because you can't even look at it as just, we're losing one of Brandon Aiyuk or Debo Samuel. It's, we're losing one of these guys. But, man, look at the way the roster is constructed outside of that. We'll still have one of them. We still would have Christian McCaffrey, who we rely on so much. You still would have George Kittle, who's an all-pro, led all tight ends in yards last season. You still would have Jawan Jennings, who you like, and he hasn't been a high-volume guy in the passing game, but you like him. And then the rookies that you drafted, right? Like, you drafted these guys kind of understanding, hey, it puts us in a better situation. So the fact that they are hell-bent on finding another receiver that they could trade for at this point, I would say that may be very alarming, as it pertains to the others that they have in-house right now.
And a lot of people talk about, maybe Pearsall doesn't play the right position. Kyle Shanahan, when they drafted him, said he could play all the positions. So I don't know if he was, full of it with that comment or not. But that's what they thought about Ricky Pearsall. It's rare for a rookie to be ready for Kyle Shanahan, so I could see why he would be a little bit hesitant on that. But I agree with Kenny's comments there. It's bad business to overpay for a wide receiver and then not get, and maybe even get underpaid for your guy, right? I mean, that's awful business. And it's completely unnecessary too. And so I hope that the situation with the Steelers is that they're just waiting for the right offer period. And they're like, look, a 2 and a 3 is not going to get it. We need your first round pick and a couple guys or something. That if that's what's holding up the trade, that's what it should be. If they're holding up the trade because we can't find some scrub ass veteran wide receiver to throw in there, then give me a break. Next. What are we watching for? The 49ers are going to play football this weekend, Croc. Saturday, preseason opener at the Tennessee Titans. What to watch for next? This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a regular old job board either. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role, they're at LinkedIn. And in a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. In fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is also sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. When your schedule is packed, whether it be kids, job, big work projects, other projects, so much more. There's something bothering you and taking away your time that's in most people's pockets all day long, every day. It's really easy for your priorities to let slip. Even when you know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are as important as ever. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your specific schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched to a licensed therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today. Get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
I think someone needs to point the 49ers in the direction of those two sponsors that we just mentioned. LinkedIn, can they post on LinkedIn? Need receiver help. All right. And then with BetterHelp, it might be Peacock and I. We've been trying to sort this thing out. We're going crazy. We need someone to talk to about that.
Look, BetterHelp for Kyle and Brandon Aiyuk and maybe John Lynch. Prague might need to be in this too. I think, I think he's part of it. I think the 49ers are set up to where Prague can be the bad guy and John and Kyle can be the good guys kind of thing, where they're not the main negotiators and they let mean old Prague, do the nasty work behind the scenes, and make players mad with the offers. But you don't need LinkedIn Jobs to find another wide receiver if you just use the BetterHelp to get the therapy these guys need to get them back up on the same page and get Brandon Aiyuk signed, which is still what should happen. So there you go. You're onto something there, Croc.
So Robbie Chose Anderson, he was signed today, huh?
Yep. He signed. I saw a clip from, I think it was a picture from Josina Anderson who showed a picture of him signing the deal, actually signing the paper at 49ers HQ. So Robbie Chose Anderson, ex-wide receiver, helping out. Now, the 49ers have some injuries too, so they just need bodies to get through the preseason, which might be part of it. I don't know if he's got a good shot at making the team. I don't think he's going to be playing in front of, a healthy Pearsall necessarily, or even Chris Conley or whoever, but that he plays the position. I think he would jump in and start working at the X spot where Brandon Aiyuk should be. So there's another body added there. The 49ers have a ton of wide receivers. We came into camp talking about how it's going to be impossible and a good player is going to get cut. And it was a really hard position for us to figure out. And there's going to be battles for that 4th, 5th spot, 6th spot. And now they're signing guys off the street.
Not ideal.
Mm-mm.
Did you see the report that the Steelers offered a 1 for Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers were like, no?
Before the draft. I did see that. I think that was a pretty Ricky report.
Okay. So I don't know how much talk we could put into that. Some people
Ricky
actually accused you of being pretty Ricky, but can you check with your sources on that? Like, is there any truth to that? Or I know you talk to people, but
I know my guy Matt Williamson's pretty plugged in Pittsburgh, and he says no. And he told me no before the draft, as we were talking about, because he's been like, man, Aiyuk could be a great fit for the Steelers. Like, what would it take? And be like, well, it'd definitely take your pick 20 in the first round. And he's like, gosh, I don't think they would do that because they need that for an offensive tackle, which they did take. So he's been right about all that. Here's my question, and this is where I think the 49ers might have really screwed this up from a trade perspective if they end up trading Brandon Aiyuk and don't get a first round pick. Was it the 2025 first rounder that was offered? And did other teams offer a future first and the Niners like, no, we need a first this year, and said no, and now they end up taking not only not a first but a second rounder next year because they turned down first rounders from 2025. I wonder if that might be a first round pick that was offered. Because according to Pretty Ricky, he said that a first rounder is not part of the offer currently, and there was a first round pick offered previously before the draft. But he didn't say it was the 2024 first round pick. Because I think the 49ers might have, unless they really thought a deal was done. And that's the other thing is like, man, I guess they thought Brandon Aiyuk himself, remember he said he was picking out a suit. So maybe everybody thought they were closer then. So there's no reason why they were so close that they liked that better than even getting a first round pick. Could they have turned down pick 20 from the Steelers? I don't know.
Maybe he should have behaved a different way and was just very unwilling to cooperate from the jump. Because when you look at some of the other receivers that have been traded, Like that's typically, especially like Diggs. Diggs has forced himself out of like multiple situations now, and it's just being, I'm disgruntled. I want out right now. I'm gonna be just a terrorizer in the locker room. Y'all better trade me. I don't like this guy. I don't like that guy. They're like, all right, we'll trade you. All right,
get out of here. Yeah.
Maybe Brandon Aiyuk shouldn't have been so cool about it from the start and just went straight Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to how it has played out now.
Yeah.
I would have rather just like, dang, Aiyuk's tripping, but okay, got something done. Instead of now, it's like, dang, this is very weird, very weird for everybody. Even Debo Samuel said, it's a little weird being out here right now.
Yeah.
Did you hear Debo's quote about watching film with Brock Purdy?
Yeah, it was almost like, are you kidding me? No. Kyle watched the film with Brock Purdy. Why would I ever watch the film with Brock Purdy? I was like, okay, that's a strange answer.
Oh, man. So we've heard about Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford and their connection, right? And they're in there at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. They're watching film together. How, okay, this guy does this. We'll attack him this way and we'll do this and settle in this zone. And it's like, yeah, of course I sit with my guy. And Debo is like, absolutely not. That's Kyle Shanahan's job. That ain't my job to sit with him. Debo is a funny dude. I love Debo. He's a funny dude. He's different than anybody I've ever been around.
Yeah. And I think I think that's part of this whole thing. I think Kyle likes Debo more than Brandon Aiyuk. And so he's like, man, if we're going to keep one guy, let's keep the guy I like more.
The guy that just... The guy that does things in an unconventional way. And he's an unconventional usage type guy as well.
Yeah.
Or very conventional for the 49ers.
And people say, oh, Ayuk's the best receiver. And he's the best wide receiver. But Debo's more unique. And Debo's is harder to replace because he's the best in the league. And his skill set is so unique. Can you replace Aiyuk? Ayuk's the better wide receiver and route runner, but you can get 90% of Aiyuk easier than you can get 90% of Debo. And Kyle just likes him more. I think that's it. Aiyuk has annoyed Kyle, and now he's ready to get rid of him, I guess. I don't know. So we'll see. Hopefully the Steelers up their offer. I have a hard time believing that the trade package wouldn't be significant, and so I think that's part of it. And the 49ers are probably just like, look, we're not gonna back down from our asking price. It's gonna be costly. And if the Steelers don't want to do it, Brandon, the only other option left is you take our offer or you play on the 5th-year option.
I feel for him.
Yeah.
I feel for him.
Name one. What are you watching for? Saturday, preseason football. With all this other stuff going on, I forgot there was preseason games starting already this weekend. Croc.
You said, oh yeah, 49. Okay, when did they play? What day? Oh yeah, there is a football game about to be played.
What do you mean about the Titans? What are they offering a deal for? Trade deadline DeAndre Hopkins availability. See, this is what I'm talking about. If the Niners need a wide receiver, play it out early in the season. There's Courtland Sutton, Devante Adams. Raiders go 1-6 to start the year. Devante Adams might be had for a lot cheaper than you can get him for right now. DeAndre Hopkins might become available if the Titans go in the tank early in the season. There's a lot more guys that might be available for that stretch run for the 49ers, right? DeAndre Hopkins is not going to play. He's injured currently, but hopefully we see a little Will Levis out there. I don't think we're going to see any Brock Purdy. I think Kyle has already talked about that. We're not going to see Chris McCaffrey. So, you know what I want to see, Croc? Who's running back one? I want to see Jordan Mason because he might get put back on the shelf when the season starts, or is Matt Breida going to be the one that and somebody in the chat earlier asked if Matt Breida was a signing that had something to do with the new kickoff return.
I'm a back-end guy, so I don't expect the starters to be out there. Even guys like second-year player Jair Brown, like, will he be out there? I doubt it. But, man, I am excited to watch Renardo Green and just what it looks like. And do they play him inside as well? I go back to Emmanuel Mosley's rookie year. Mosley was a guy who played outside, played in the nickel. Now, I haven't seen Renardo Green get any nickel snaps, but I wouldn't put it past the 49ers to try to, hey, let's see what this looks like a little bit. So I got all my eyes on him. I saw someone in the chat mention D Winters. Definitely excited to watch D Winters and what it looks like because I've seen him flying around and making some plays in the backfield against the Niners in practice.
That's a good one. Winters, Renardo Green, Dominic Pooney will probably get the start, I would imagine, unless he's already so entrenched with the ones that They don't want to expose him there. And Cowing. What about Cowing? I've gotten like no training camp reports. He wasn't there when I was there. I don't know if you noticed Cowing when you were there this week, Croc, because he was back from injury. Pearsall's not going to play. So, yeah, let's see some of these young guys. Let's see some of the young talent. Malik Mustafa is probably going to be in there if the starters aren't out there. So you got to someone's got to play 4 quarters of this football game, right? So I think those are the ones. The second, third, fourth round picks there for the San Francisco 49ers are the ones to watch this year. Cowing still hurt? I thought he was back on the field. Maybe he's only working on the side or working in one-on-ones and not team stuff. But
I guess that would make the 49ers kind of desperate to find a partner to trade with right now when just every receiver is hurt.
Chosen. Is it Chosen Anderson or Robbie Chosen?
I think it's Robbie Chosen.
Robbie Chosen.
Yeah.
Robbie Chosen's a vet. He could probably hop in a couple days if he was in shape. Play some snaps. Yeah.
But we don't want to watch Robbie Chosen. Like this, I'm not watching him to see like, oh, what does Robbie Chosen look like? Like he's just that guy. Okay, veteran signing, cool. You know, he decent receiver. I want to see the young guys, man. You know. And last year, okay, what does Ronnie Bell look like? Kick return, punt return, cool. But man, I hope Cowing plays. He had a blue jersey on still, so Cowing was in the blue jersey. I thought it was Danny Gray. So where the hell is Danny Gray?
I think Danny Gray was in a blue jersey as well this week.
Okay, so it was Danny Gray.
Yeah,
because I only saw one receiver. When I was there Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, Tuesday I was there. I only saw one receiver in the blue jersey. I thought it was Danny Gray. The blue jerseys don't have a number on it. So, I pay attention to the guys' aesthetics and how they put the uniform on.
Helmet to helmet says Cowing was dressed Tuesday.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Thanks for man, dude, Danny Gray needs to be on the field. He's the one that needs to play in this preseason game. Trying to win a job. They're needing wide receivers. It's a perfect opportunity. There's never been a better opportunity for a guy like Danny Gray, 3rd round pick, to go win a job. And now he's hurt and can't compete.
You want that opportunity. Some guys, they step up and they take advantage of it. Other guys, they just don't.
Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For your second listen, check out the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Check out Locked On Fantasy, Locked On Dynasty. Get ready for those drafts. If you want to know a little bit more about the enemy, check out Locked On Titans. 200 podcasts here on the network, including live streams, Locked On NFL, streaming live, Locked On Sports, everything going on in the entire sporting world, streaming on Amazon Fire and YouTube as well. Croc and I will be back to break down preseason football, and who knows, maybe we'll have a resolution to the Brandon Aiyuk saga next time, right here, Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video.